Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. Why does white America act as if they know nothing about the race problem here in America when they actually founded this country in race and used race to actually build this country? And now that they have amassed trillions of dollars on the issue using race, why do they now act like this is the most colorblind society, country, nation, whatever you want to call it, in the world? Why do they think they can play those games with us African Americans? Well, I want to talk to white Americans primarily in this video, and to any black sycophants that they have as well. And I want to talk about the Carmelo Anthony appeal and why it matters. Hint, hint, it matters a lot because of you, white America, because of you. So I came across this question on one of my YouTube videos. I don't know the race, color of the person who asked the question, but it certainly sounds like a question asked by a white person. So this segment is called Your Question, My Answer. Ask me anything. So I'm going to answer this person's question, and that's going to be the extent of the video. All right? So let's see what this question is all about. Okay? So here's the question. Why do you all want a killer on the streets? Because his skin is dark? He stabbed that kid in the heart over nothing. He had a fair trial. It was found guilty and sentenced. Game over. He is where he wanted to be. He seems to think because his victim has light skin, it's okay to kill him. That is the only racism here. 15 witnesses that were there told the same story. He is guilty. So I'm going to answer this question, but I'm going to keep my answer regarding the appeal. I'm not going to get into some of these alleged facts by this person because we're still awaiting for transcripts, court reporter records, and so on. And I, as a professional, don't want to get out before I have those facts in my possession. All right. Now, some of what this person said, I have certainly heard things very differently. All right. So I am not, by focusing on the appeal, I'm definitely not in silence affirming or confirming or agreeing with some of these things this person said. But the heart of this person's question really goes to the appeal. And that's what I want to focus on. All right. So, for example, because his skin is dark, I don't know what she or he means by that, to be honest. I don't know. Okay. He is where he wanted to be. I am certain he's not where he wanted to be. He seems to think that because his victim has light skin, I presume this person's talking about the fact that Austin was white. There is no evidence whatsoever that the killing occurred because of Austin's skin color. Otherwise, they would have charged him with something else. They would have added some aggravating factor, perhaps some kind of hate crime or something. So there are a whole lot of assumptions here that I will not address further. I just want to talk about the appeal because the appeal matters. The appeal really matters. And it matters because of questions and sentiments and assumptions made like this. This is part of the reason. So let's get into it. Why does this appeal matter? First, because of transparency. All right, so first, there were no camera in the courtroom. No cameras, to my knowledge. So the public doesn't know what was said, what was done inside the courtroom. And I just think about O.J. Simpson, for example. I remember that trial was on camera for days, several weeks or more. And the American people were able to see exactly what was said, what was done, etc. Why is that important? Because this is America. African American people have been victimized by race in this country since we've been here. We have seen all of it. We've seen the all-white juries. We've seen the lynchings. We've seen the KKK cops. We've seen law enforcement that was birthed out of the slave patrol of slavery. We've seen every bit of it. That was 250 years of enslavement, chattel enslavement. And we saw it during Jim Crow. So don't act like we don't need transparency to know what happens inside a courtroom, especially when it is happening in a very conservative, very white county. The victim is white. The decedent is white. The person who did the killing is black. The judge is white. So quite naturally, we need transparency. And so this appeal is going to look at everything. Cameras weren't there, but in essence, this is a way to sort of look back with the eyes and the skill set of 6 attorneys who will look over the record and I'm sure take a fine-tooth comb through that record and give us what we didn't get. All right? Give us what we didn't get. So there were no camera in the courtrooms, in the courtroom. There's a lot of ignorance of the legal system. So a lot of people are left to speculation because they didn't see inside the courtroom and they don't know how the law works and how the courtroom works. Now, that doesn't stop a lot of people from getting on social media and just making a whole bunch of things, just saying a whole bunch of crazy stuff, who never studied the law, who never passed the bar exam, who never sat in a law school classroom, right? Yet, because they saw several episodes of Law and Order, they know the legal system. I guess my 3 years of law school, my year of studying for the bar, intensive 3 years of studying in law school, let me be exact. All right. Also, my almost 2 decades of representing people in the criminal court system, almost 2 decades, coming up on 20 years of representing hundreds, if not thousands of people, most of them African-American men. No, folks just rather just sit and talk and basically say a bunch of stuff they know nothing about, oftentimes defaming people. All right? And you better be careful with that defamation. Just letting you know. I guess all of that means nothing. Okay? Because folks are out here just really ignorant of the legal system, making a whole bunch of statements they know nothing about. And none of us, again, really don't have the facts. We don't have the facts. So the appeal will help us know what the facts are. Also, the appeal matters because it'll silence rumors and baseless conspiracy theories. They're all over social media. A bunch of baseless conspiracy theories. And as a professional, I will not engage in that. And that could have, in large part, been absolutely dealt with had the judge allowed cameras to see that trial, so people could see it and hear it for themselves. Transparency, also to openly address any alleged errors. We would have seen that from the cameras as they happened, right? If objections were made on this or not, or on that, we would have seen it and heard it ourselves. Had they take sidebars, had there been pretrial motions. I also think about the trial of our dear brother George Floyd. Mr. Floyd's trial was laid open for everybody to see it. Everything, the opening statement, the closing arguments, the direct questioning, the redirects, all of it. The judges' decisions, we saw it all. Still, folks came out with these conspiracy theories and a bunch of rumors, but still it helped a lot. And that would have been really good. All right? So why this appeal matters? To address all these things in a way of now trying to be transparent. That's number one. Number two, competence. Competence. Was Karmelo's defense team, Mike Howard and Toby Shook, were they competent? Did they perform competently? We will see and know all of that once Russell Wilson and his team goes through that record, right? To ensure that Karmelo's defense team knew and understood applicable rules and law. They will answer that question and get to the bottom of that. And not just the defense team, but the prosecutors, the judge. So this is why this appeal is so very important. Let me try to explain something here. As a criminal defense attorney and civil rights lawyer, having done many cases, criminal defense cases, and trials, we represent the accused, criminal defense lawyers. We represent the accused. And sometimes they are guilty. Sometimes they're guilty. But what we do as criminal defense lawyers, is to make sure that the state, the government, is not violating the Constitution in their pursuit of trying to get a conviction. Let me say it again. What we're doing oftentimes, even when our accused or even guilty clients are facing the state or facing the government, we're trying to simply ensure that the state and the government follow the rules that the founders insisted upon, right? The Bill of Rights, First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, Fourth Amendment, very important. Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment, Seventh Amendment. We just make sure they're doing it by the rules, following the rules, not just those, not just the Bill of Rights, but also case law, statutes, rules of evidence, all sorts of safeguards against a state or the government overreaching or cheating. It's really important. And we have to protect that for people who are guilty, even as well as people who are innocent. That's a part of our legal system. And it's awesome. It's the best in the world. Many countries will not afford you that. If you're guilty, if you're accused, man, you get a sham trial, sham court system. But that's not the way we do it here in this country. Now, we know over the years, this very same country has been rotten toward African American people. And a lot of these laws now exist because of the way African Americans were treated. A lot of the victims, the cases of the victims that the United States Supreme Court has decided dealt with a black person. So we didn't start out this way as a country because, again, we had the slave patrols as that started the police, law enforcement. But we have evolved. And there's still a whole lot of systemic racism in the criminal justice system, which is why I've been telling you more of you need to go to law school. But it's a lot better than it was, right? And these appeals is another set of eyes to look at the record to see if errors were made that are egregious enough for the appellate court to do something about it. All right. So the Fifth Court of the Fifth Court of Appeals, will hear Carmelo Anthony. It's mandatory that they hear his appeal, but it's not mandatory for the Court of Criminal Appeals to hear any appeal that comes out of Carmelo Anthony's case. However, if they lose and they want to do what we call an 1107 habeas corpus writ on the issue of ineffective assistance of counsel or something else, then they must hear that. They don't have to necessarily take it serious, but they got to hear it. You follow me? So we need these appeal. We need an appeal, especially in a case like this, because we need to make sure, first of all, that this young man got a fair trial. And we don't know that sometimes until we go back and look at it. That's why I don't say anything about the facts yet. I wasn't in the courtroom one day. Not one day. I don't know what was said. Okay? I don't know what objections were made or not made. You follow what I'm saying? So I'm dependent as everybody else on getting the record so we can see what happened. And then we'll know. And I think a lot of people will feel a whole lot better. And it's not anything or any sort of slight against Austin Metcalf losing his life. Not at all. Bottom line is, you want to know the bottom line? The African American community does not, and for good reasons, does not trust the criminal justice system. It has been rotten to us, and it is still rotten to us. Go back and watch a video I did a couple of days ago where I laid that out with the data. So when someone asks a question like, why do you want a killer on the streets? He was found guilty. He got a fair trial. We don't take that at face value. Many of the people right now on death row are black men, especially if they killed a white person. Right? And we also know that there have been many recently who've killed people and got less time. So this is not about saying or doing anything to disrespect the life and the memory, the death of Austin Metcalf, and nor the memory of him, nor the pain his family suffers. No, this is to make sure that the system is working fairly, which brings me to my next point. So first, transparency. Second, competency. Third, fairness. This system has been extremely unfair to us, African Americans. And please don't run this game about why do y'all bring race and everything. I addressed that in the beginning of this video. We didn't bring race and everything. It was, unfortunately, the white power structure that brought race and everything. As a matter of fact, right now as we speak, we're being targeted right now with a lot of anti-blackness by this current administration. So stop it with this crazy stuff about why black people bring race in everything. Our race has been a part of everything, which is why I pleaded with African American people to not vote for this administration. nor not do anything else, like staying home instead of voting for the opposition. That's what this should have been about, an opposition vote. Because look at the anti-blackness that we're dealing with. So spare me with all this stuff about why we bring race into everything. Race is already in everything. I had a white colleague over the courthouse one time who said to me, "Do you bring race into everything?" There's a group of us standing around. I said, "Man, stop it. Race is already a part of everything in America. This is America. Stop it." So fairness in terms to ensure the judge was fair. The judge is the gatekeeper. He is the person who determines what comes in, what stays out. He's the one who determines what objections are sustained, what are overruled. Right? So all of that is going to be critical during the appeal. So we want to make sure that the judge was fair. We want to make sure the prosecutors and the prosecution's office was fair. Not just the prosecutors, but the office as well, in decisions that were made. We also want to make sure that local bias didn't influence the Collin County criminal justice system. There's a lot of race stuff being said and done. When this first happened, I created a video and I caught all kinds of horrible comments, horrible, from white people about me just simply, again, trying to say that Carmelo Anthony at that time was presumed innocent, that he was entitled to a fair trial, that he was a kid, he's still a kid. Then I think he was 17 years old, not knowing how to handle a police encounter, not knowing how to or why he needs to be quiet, not so many things he just didn't understand. So I was just trying in my very first video on this to acknowledge all of that. And I'm telling you, I got called all kinds of things and attacked. So there was already tremendous local bias. And I brought up in a video several weeks or so ago that because of all that bias, hopefully the defense team filed a motion to change venue. But I tell you this, the only venue that would have probably been maybe more open to this, to Karmelo's legal arguments would have been Dallas County, because most of the surrounding counties are just like Collin County. They're primarily white and primarily conservative. So, but yeah, I mean, hopefully there was a motion to change venue, but we don't know. We don't know. Then there's racism. Well, how is this different from fairness? Well, I'm talking about what happened in the trial when I talk about fairness. But when I talk about racism, I'm talking about systemic racism. I'm talking about the racism of the past, of the present, and future. And it has been a lot. So again, quite naturally, black people do not trust this legal system, and for very good reason. So yes, the legacy of systemic racism, the railroading of black men especially, whether race played a role in sentencing. These are all questions, legitimate questions, that the African-American community have. The anti-blackness of this political climate right now. There's a lot coming at our community from this administration. And this administration has power and influence all over the country, especially in communities that love MAGA. So this appeal is necessary to get hopefully, to the bottom of all of these concerns and issues and more. And again, we have the absolute right and responsibility as African American people to raise these issues. And we should raise these issues. I just wish that more people would wait to get the record, to get at least this appeal team's briefs and filings so that you can at least see what they found and how they're using those to make sure Karmelo got a fair trial, rather than these conspiracy theories and, rumors and so forth. But that comes with the territory as well. A lot of that could have been assuaged and prevented had there been cameras in the courtroom, just like the George Floyd trial, as well as the Ahmaud Arbery trial, right? All the way back to the O.J. Simpson trial. When you got this kind of racial tension going on, there needs to be, as I said first, transparency. And this notion about why black people want killers on the street, we don't want killers on the street. We deal with violence in our community. We don't want killers on the street. What we want is fairness. We want transparency. We want to know there was competence. And we want to know that systemic racism, as much as possible, did not drive the outcome here. And we deserve to know it. All right, I'm Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video, and as always, stay woke.